Welcome to this tech tip showing the installation and first launch of Edgecam 2014 R2. This tech tip is intended for the user that has a previous recent version of Edgecam and is updating to the 2014 R2 version. After downloading the DVD image, extracting the contents, and opening the starthere.hta file, you will have the installation navigation screen shown here. The Prepare section includes the installation guide, which you should read before installing, and documentation on the new features in this version of Edgecam. In the Server's Installation section, you have the Sentinel RMS License Server option. This is provided for installations where the Edgecam workstations obtain licenses from a network server. Edgecam 2014 R1 provided an upgrade to the version 8.5.3 Sentinel RMS license server. If you skipped this at the last version, we recommend completing this upgrade to your company's Edgecam network license server. The Edgecam SQL Tool Store option is provided for deployments where the tool store database is hosted from a server. If this is how your company deploys the Edgecam Tool Store database, this installation should be done on the server prior to installing Edgecam on the user workstations. We will cover this in more detail at the end of the workstation installation. The Install section offers the options for the user workstation. We'll focus on the Edgecam installation for this tech tip. The Edgecam installation process is very straightforward. You begin with selecting the Edgecam option in the Install section. This launches the Edgecam installer, which will guide you through the installation process. Select the language, and then begin the setup. First, we have the license agreement. Once you've read the license agreement and accepted it, the next is to set the path for where the installation will install to. Usually the default suggestion is appropriate. Then we have the choice of a typical install or custom. Now, we want you to note that at this version of Edgecam, both Part Modeler and Live Job Reports are installed with Edgecam. If you wish to use custom to select which Edgecam installation item should be installed, you can do that. We're going to choose typical for this one. Finally, we have the program group that will be created that you'll see off the Start menu. And when we click Next, the units we wish to have Edgecam launch in, a summary screen, and then the install begins. When installation is complete, you have the Finish button, and also notice that What's New is checked. We suggest going and browsing through What's New to become familiar with the changes and new technology in this release. You can also get to What's New from the splash screen and anytime from the Edgecam Help menu. The other items in the Install section are optional. As noted earlier, the Live Job Reports and the Part Modeler are now installed as part of a typical Edgecam installation. These install screen options are provided for users that wish to install those on a computer that is not an Edgecam workstation. The CAD links detect supported CAD systems and install the Edgecam plugin. This provides an Edgecam icon in the CAD system to quickly open the solid in Edgecam. Edgecam is the first CAD-CAM platform to integrate Sandvik Coromant's Advion tool library. The Advion tool library is based on the Cutting Tool Data Standard ISO 13399 and makes it easy to create and export tool assemblies to your CAM or simulation software. We suggest that before installing you should refer to the installation guide for complete information on the entire software installation options. I'd like to point out one more thing here. I'd like to note the Browse Installation Folder option right above Exit. Now what this does is it opens up Windows Explorer so you can see the DVD folder structure, and notice that here you have the installation removal tool. In here is a utility that assists with removing the software from the computer. Unlike going through Control Panel and Add Remove Programs, this is able to let you choose all of the little software options that are installed with Edgecam, as well as even cleaning out Windows Registry and your local My Documents. This allows you full control over the software and install process, including ability to do a completely clean software installation. When the installation is complete, notice that the Edgecam Launcher shortcut is placed on the desktop. The launcher provides central access to all Edgecam software items, including Workflow, recently opened files, Tool Library, and other ancillary Edgecam software. Everything is at your fingertips. We're going to launch Workflow and have a look at what happens the first time that you launch the software following the Edgecam 2014 R2 installation. The first question that you get is asking if you want to use the workstation's public documents folder. We suggest that you say no unless there are multiple Edgecam users that each have their own login on the workstation. Example files and folder structure, where user data is stored, is now copied to either the local My Documents or to public documents, depending on whether you answered yes or no on the question. Next, we see the File Migration Wizard. This is a handy tool for copying your data from your previous Edgecam version to the new version. You've probably configured the previous version the way you like it, and this utility will copy those settings to the new version automatically. Notice the summary screen showing where files and settings are copied from. Next, you can select which options to copy over, and then start the File Migration Wizard. Most users can leave the default suggestions checked and simply click Next. The utility will then copy the user data to the new version so that Edgecam 2014 R2 looks as close as possible to how you had configured the previous version. Next, you have a question about registering the software. If you've already done this with a previous version and are using the Vero Customer Portal and Customer Community Forums, you can skip this step. If you haven't done that yet, you may want to take a moment to register. Edgecam is now ready to use. You can immediately begin the programming process with your files and settings copied over. This final segment is for customers that host the tool store database from a server. If your company doesn't do that, you can ignore the remainder of this tech tip. In this deployment scenario, there are typically multiple user workstations, which we'll call clients. They all use a common tool store database installed on another computer, which we'll call the database server. In this type of environment, the database server should be updated to the new version before installing Edgecam on the clients. So step 1, working on the database server, complete the SQL Tool Store install option. Next, step 2, still working on the database server, upgrade the database. We'll show that next. Once both are complete, you can proceed to complete the Edgecam installations on the clients, which we showed in the previous segment of this video. Let's go take a look at, once the SQL install is done, how to upgrade the database. So we've launched the Tool Store Administrator, and you can see that the database has a red flag showing it needs to be updated. We'll tell it to upgrade the database, and we typically give it the database name and just put the correct version number behind it to identify it. And after you've clicked the upgrade process, That database is now upgraded, leaving the old one intact and a new one alongside it, and we can even go select the new one, make it active. At that point, that finishes the maintenance on the database server, and you're ready to proceed to installing Edgecam on the clients.